and Lieutenant Colonel. We will go into questions. We will ask members of the media to ask one question and one follow-up. We do have a hard stop at 2 p.m. With that, I will turn it over to Lieutenant Colonel Litzenberger to provide a few opening remarks.
Thank you. As we prepare for our redeployment, I would just like to note that the Land Task Force has proudly supported Saskatchewan authorities in combating Type 3 wildfires. This included soldiers from various regular force and reserve force units based across Western Canada. Over the past 4 weeks, 300 Canadian Army soldiers were continuously engaged in firefighting efforts across the Waquin, Green Lake, and the Loche areas. Additionally, the Air Task Force deployed 3 Royal Canadian Air Force CH-146 Griffin helicopters for air mobility and reconnaissance operations. This support from the Canadian Armed Forces enhances local resources through unique capabilities, aiming to stabilize the situation and reassure residents in the affected areas. Once the situation improves, our soldiers and aviators return home to prepare for their next mission. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel. Now we'll move it over to Steve to provide an update on wildfires in the province.
Good afternoon. So today in Saskatchewan, we have 49 active wildfires. That is 467 so far this year, above our 5-year average of 385. Only 8 of those fires are not yet contained. However, a large number of these fires have been contained in the short period over the last week and a half. So the bullfire by the National Park, the ditch fire by Waquin, Pisu fire beside Larange, the Shoe fire in Lower Fishing Lakes area, the Wolf and the Sturgeon fires by Denair Beach, and the Hawk fire by Hull Lake, all are now listed as contained. This continued weather that we've seen that's improving our situation also has resulted in the removal of the provincial fire ban. All closures of provincial highways have been removed at this time, and currently there are no communities evacuated. Situation improvement has led to us making some decisions about releasing external resources. Our support from our Australian partners have returned home. The aircraft that we were getting support from the province of Quebec, the 2 415 water bombers, have returned home. And we will also be currently working on releasing the support we have received from the Canadian Armed Forces as of this morning.
Thank you, Steve. Now we will turn it over to questions. We'll start in the room first. And as a reminder, one question and one follow-up, and please identify your name and media outlet.
Hi, I'm Arjun Pillai from the Daily Herald. In a recent press conference, Carla Black and the Denair Beach residents, they raised concerns that evacuees were told they slipped through the cracks and waited for weeks for aid, and also questioning why other northern communities received specialized firefighting support immediately while Denair Beach did not. How does the SPSA respond, and what criteria are used to set those priorities?
All our priorities are based on the same criteria. Human life and communities are number one. It is the reason why there was resources, including air tankers, external support and local support were provided to Denair Beach. So, for example, crews from Prince Edward Island, Type 2 crews and Type 1 crews from across the province were in Denair Beach at the time the fire grew in intensity and entered the community. In addition, multiple structural fire departments had been brought in and were supporting the Denair Beach Fire Department in protecting that community. So that is common on all our fires because of the priorities. So even though it was happening on other fires, it was also happening in Denair Beach.
Question. In the same day, they also claimed that water bombers were left unused while the fire approached the village. Could you please explain?
Our aircraft, there were water bombers. We working those fires in the Denair Beach area as well. We have records of those. There were 2 in repair, as we said, but as they were under repair, we had brought in additional aircraft from Alaska, from British Columbia, and Quebec to fill that void and respond to wildfires. So our capacity was not diminished.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, we'll go over to teams now. Okay, we have Aiden up first. Please identify your media outlet. So we're just having some technical issues. We can't,
Aiden Jagger,
there we go.
Saskatoon Star Phoenix. Was wondering, how did the SPSA coordinate with local leaders and emergency teams to ensure the safe return of all evacuees to their homes?
Engage in evacuation, so their local emergency operations center, their local fire departments, and others in their leadership to determine, first of all, if an evacuation is warranted. Should an evacuation occur and that decision is made, we continue to work with that leadership and those individuals to ensure that the situation is stabilized and that individuals from that community can return, and they return to a community that is safe, has power, supports, their hospitals running, they have fuel supports, they have groceries, and they have access to come and go if they need to. So all of those are discussion points. Ultimately, the community leadership will make the decision on evacuation and also for returning people to their community.
Thanks, Steve. Did you have a follow-up, Aiden?
No, not for now. Thanks. Thank you.
No problem. Christopher?
Yeah, so Steve, obviously the recent weather conditions have been decent, but I don't know if it's up north, but we're having quite the heat wave here in the southern half of the province. Is there a concern as to whether a late summer heat wave could ramp up fire activity to the point where you need outside resources like the CAF again?
So we will continue to monitor, and we will utilize our provincial resources and external resources as they're required. That is one of the provisions, and you saw it early in the spring. We started to ramp up resources as our needs were exceeded, if they're needed. So in addition to the temporary weather conditions, we often have to factor in days are getting shorter, our nighttime recovery is better, and the work we've done on these fires to ensure that they're not active near their perimeters will ensure that we have less likelihood of these fires becoming more problematic or for the chance of new stars becoming problematic.
As a follow-up, Steve, kind of putting you on the spot here, but as we near what seems to be a bit of the end of fire season, what grade would you give your organization in regards to the response that you've had to the wildfires throughout the year?
Well, I'd say that I have nothing but excellent, recommendations for our crews. You consider, and we talked about it earlier, our number one priority is our protecting human life and communities. There were no fatalities, even though we had extremely aggressive fire behavior, many people in the fire line, many aircraft in the air. In addition, we had severe losses at Denier Beach, but many communities were protected from any losses. So it was not the only activity when you consider that most communities were impacted by wildfire this year, that our success rate and our ability to protect people is extraordinary.
Thank you, Steve. Up next, we have Jeremy.
Hi there, Jeremy Symes with the Canadian Press. When do you anticipate the military will leave the province and return back to their posts?
So I can answer that one. So currently we've actually redeployed 200 Type 3 firefighters as of today. So that was around 100 that came from Shiloh, Manitoba. They're actually probably about 3 hours away from home right now. And then we had 100 go back to Edmonton, and they arrived back in Edmonton about 2 hours ago. The last of our elements will redeploy this Friday, leaving probably around 6, 7 in the morning, an early start. But we'll carry on working right to the end of the RFA, which is at the end of the day tomorrow.
Okay, and so how many are still in Saskatchewan?
Approximately 140 right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel. Chris Edwards.
Hi, Chris Edwards from CBC. Most of my questions were similar to what Jeremy asked about the military, but so just to clarify, all of the Canadian Forces members are essentially on their way home now. The decision has been made to send them back. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so we, based on the situation and discussions with the Lieutenant Colonel, we staged a demobilization plan with approximately half of the forces leaving this morning, and the other half will leave Saskatchewan Friday morning.
Okay, so you're completely confident then that there's really you don't anticipate needing to call them back this fire season?
Based on our current situation, we don't believe that to be the case. We are retaining some other out-of-province resources, and we are continuing to rely on our local Type 3 firefighters to meet the needs to continue to work on these fires as we approach the fall.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff, I see we have a few questions in the chat.
Yes, we have one from Mia Hollowaychuk of CCOM News. It's a three-pronged question. Is this the worst wildfire season for evacuees in provincial history? How many total evacuees were there this year? And do you have a cost estimate for damages that have been done to structures due to the wildfires?
So I'll answer them each separately. From the number of communities that evacuated, this has by far been the largest fire season in Saskatchewan. The number of total evacuees is comparable to 2015, where we had large-scale evacuation in Saskatchewan. I do not have the exact numbers here, and we do not have exact numbers for total value loss, damage loss in Saskatchewan.
Okay, up next, Jeremy, a follow-up.
Yes, thank you, Jeremy Symes, the Canadian Press. You just mentioned Australian crews have returned home and the Quebec water bombers back home. I'm just wondering when did they return for both of those?
The Australians returned, I believe it was Monday, and the Quebec water bombers were released Tuesday and returned home. We talked about external, we still have Mexican firefighters or support from North Dakota, Yukon, Ontario, and Parks Canada assisting us, as well as our local Type 1, Type 2, and Type 3 firefighters.
And just another one, just wondering what's being done to safeguard these communities that already had evacuated and now they're back. Just what have crews been doing to make sure that they don't have to leave again?
So that's one of the criteria before they return, is having a discussion with their community to make sure that they are both secure and have the resources they need to go back. So as an example, one of the areas we look at is the access to and from that community secure to enable travel? Are they power infrastructure supportable and reliable and not impacted by wildfire or potentially? And are their services up and ready, like the hospital services, like their gas station, like their schools, and their water treatment plant, those kinds of things. So that's kind of done before they return home to make sure that once they return home, they'll be able to go back into community life and not have to move, hopefully, again.
Thank you, Steve. Up next, we have Nick.
Hi there. Can you folks hear me? Nick Nielsen here from Prince Albert and PNow.com.
We can, yeah.
Awesome. Just wanted to ask here, last week there was $45.7 million that was announced by the federal government for wildfire research and Indigenous fire knowledge. And as well, the Prince Albert Ground Council is receiving $500,000 of that. I'm just curious, does the SPSA have any say in how any of that money gets allocated in the future, or is that separate from you guys?
The federal funding that has been applied for will be coming from the federal government, and any conditions for use or how that money will be distributed between provinces, territories, and applicants. And again, the time frame they use those will be guided by the federal government. It's not a provincial program.
Okay, no follow-up.
Thanks, Steve. Chris, back to you.
Yeah, connected to Prince Albert Grand Council. I was speaking with the Grand Chief Brian Hardlot yesterday, and he was talking about how he'd like to see fire education to the point of a fire school to help train people to fight wildfires in northern Saskatchewan. What's your thought on that, Steve? And do you see that as a viable training opportunity in the future?
So one of the areas that we have been working with is there is a fire college in Saskatchewan that has started up that provides both structural, but we made sure that it also supplied basic wildland fire training as well. Upon graduation, some of their graduates actually applied to come work with us in terms capacity to assist with wildfires. So they will come out of that college trained. So there is some already opportunities to train people in wildfire and ensure more people are trained and qualified regardless where they come from in Saskatchewan.
Do we have any more questions in the room? And I don't see any further questions on. Chris?
Yeah, this one for the Canadian Armed Forces here. Are any of the personnel that were stationed in Saskatchewan, are any of them going to be heading to the East Coast to help with the fires out there?
At this time, no one committed to this Operation Atlantis will be or is currently allocated to go out east. But I mean, that could change depending on the needs at the higher levels. But as of now, no.
Thank you. And with that, that concludes today's media availability. Have a safe rest of your day, everyone.